All right, chillins, here's why the $100 eBay kits are absolutely trash. So, first off, the squish gap. If you don't know what a squish gap is, pretty much, this is the cylinder, this is the head. The piston needs to go to the top of the cylinder without hitting the top of the cylinder head. The clearance between the piston at top dead center and the top of the cylinder head is called your squish gap. That squish gap needs to be between 0.5 and 1 millimeter. If it's outside those, it'll run terrible. Now with these engines, even though they're cheap and whatnot, they should still run out of the box. However, that was not the case because these engines had 3 millimeter squish gaps, and that is trash. Now let me explain why that's bad. Compression is a key factor in an engine and running right and whatever. The squish gap and compression go hand in hand. So if you have a smaller squish gap, you'll have more compression. If you have a larger squish gap, you'll have less compression. And because the squish gap on these engines were so large, they didn't have any compression. And you need a minimum of about 60 psi of compression for an engine like this to even run. Whereas these out of the box did not even have 20 psi. And yes, I did test it. First thing I did before even touching these. So that's pretty pathetic. I am going to get in contact with the seller to make them aware of the issues, but I was able to fix this. And here's what I did. It's called decking a cylinder, and if you're not familiar with that, you take the top of the cylinder and you just start taking material off the top, and that brings the cylinder head closer to the piston and decreases that squish gap volume. And that pretty much, I can't really explain it any better than that, but that's pretty much what I did. Now, usually on these engines, they will have a lot smaller squish gap. I've had some with only 1.5 millimeters, but because these are so big, I had to take almost like literally all of the material on the top to get it to the desired squish gap. But thankfully, I was able to do it. The other terrible thing about these engines, you not only have to deal with that, but you also have to deal with piston timing and port timing and whatnot. Now, I don't know if you can see in there, but the piston is at bottom dead center, and the piston is already above the bottom of the exhaust port. And that is bad in most cases. This, because it's only, I don't know, that's half of a millimeter or so. That won't do it. That won't do anything huge with this engine. But if it was any more, I would have to deal with that. It actually was a lot worse than that, but I needed to put more material on the bottom of the cylinder gasket to bring the cylinder up a little higher, so that wasn't such a big deal. And because I did that, I had to take even more material off the top, which is a big bummer, but I fixed the issue, and I had to do that painstaking effort on both of these engines. And it did take me, sadly, it took me about 4 hours to do just the cylinders of these two. And I haven't even done any porting work. That was just decking the cylinders, which is a huge, it's very cumbersome. And pretty much after you've fixed those two issues, you'll have a strong running engine. But just remember that pretty much every motorized bike engine that you get, you'll have to do the same work that I've been sharing with you guys. So don't think that buying a name brand engine, you're escaping from all the labor. But keep in mind that you're going to have to put hard work and labor into an engine in order to get it running strong and reliable.